Hi, everybody. Streaming live. It's been a while, and I am going to be basically doing a retelling. Well, not retelling, it's the same story. I'm just going to be reviewing it and then making a bunch of edits as I go, and working in depth with each chapter each night so I can try and get the story ready to go to be published. And so this is like kind of my last time, hopefully my last time really telling the story. I mean, I'm also having to do some rewrites and adding in extra chapters and stuff. So it's I'm trying to figure out where I need to add in the extra story. And it's not really, let me start at the beginning, shall I? So I will be reading The Sword and the Rose. And well, providing I thought I had everything together. I did not have everything together because why would I? But I wanted to kind of go over that with everybody because it's been a while since I've done streaming here, and since I've actually done any reading of chapters and whatnot. So I wanted to kind of touch base with everybody. Go, yeah, I'm going to be reading them again, but this time it's a little bit different because I'm going more in depth, and I might actually talk about the chapters once I'm done reading them, so I can kind of like I know that I already did I had an idea of like what I was where I was going. I had a stronger feel for it when I first read it, I think. And so now I'm not sure that it's going to be the same. Although right now I'm finding that there's multiple versions of the chapters again. So I'll have to go through those and then once I'm done, I'll put everything all together again. And it's going to take some time before I actually have a regular schedule again for this, but it's probably going to be somewhere between. I have to do this time frame again. I'm sorry. Um, I'm not able to do a straight every single day at the exact same time. I don't have that kind of budget. I don't have that kind of time frame. So it's whenever I show up. Um, but it'll be every night until I get this done. And I'm probably be doing one chapter at a time because I have things like I have to compile chapters together to make them work. I just have to now currently look for the first chapter of the story. But wait, I can also start with the synopsis. There's a good place to start. I did find the synopsis just now because I still have all of this to go through and figure out what's what, but I can do that later. I'm only going to read like the first bit of the synopsis because this goes right to the end, right to the end of the story. So I don't want to give too much away. So this is Sword and the Rose synopsis. The story begins with the arrival of the new Baron to Grandel Castle. The old Baron had marched away to join a failed rebellion against the king and had not been either high enough or low enough to be forgiven. So he, along with many others, had been executed. Grandel Barony had received word that the Baron had been executed and received word that a new Baron had been assigned. The new Baron was a young man, one who saved the life of the king in battle against the rebels. There are many rumors about the new Baron, all unfavorable, and many of the local knights who hold lands under the Baron, are unhappy about the situation. So that's where the story opens. And it becomes a very political kind of what's going to happen, how is he going to react to his new position. But in order for me to do that, I have to find chapter 1, which was not what I was anticipating when I came in here. I was pretty sure that I had there's another synopsis. so many synopsi. I'm sure it's called synopsi, right? Here's chapter 3, chapter 2, chapter 4, 5, 1, chapter 1. There we go. Or a version of chapter 1. There's like, I think there's multiple chapter 1s. Well, there's second chapter 2. And there's a chapter 21. I know, I'm disorganized, but I haven't really started the story. I told you a bit about the setting, the initial setting for the story, which is that. Let's see here. Haha. There you go. All of my chapter 1s, which, oh my goodness. Okay, so why is that? I have one chapter 1 that is really, really thin, and then I have another chapter 1 that is like, I'm not sure. Why is there less? I think I did some rewriting to this to like mix them together. Hopefully I did. Okay. Well, okay. So, without further ado, I'm going to read the first chapter. I may actually read both versions of the chapter because that makes sense. Yeah, it makes more sense for me to do. I think is there a third chapter 1? I'm not sure. Let me confirm that there's no third chapter 1. There could be. I know that when I first read this, I wasn't sure about how to go about compiling the two because I knew there was multiple versions of the story, and they appear to be different. So I need to put them together and kind of get the best story from both versions. So I will probably read the chapter twice. One will probably like there's this, and then there's this, which is like much fewer pages, but closer. I don't know. So I will start with this one, this version. Riders coming up the Tonisk Road, shouted the watchman, flying a banner. Forith Hand Olaf, chief captain of the guard of Grandulf Castle, ran a gauntleted hand down his chin. He caught hold of one of his under captains. We're a bit crowded up here. Seems everyone is up on the walls who thinks he's any sort of reason to. If our new baron's coming, we best we get some of the folk down. Take a few men and see to it. Yes, captain. Forith caught another guard by the elbow. Find out under Captain Sallant. Tell him that I tell him I make tell him I said make sure he's watching the 3. He'll know what I mean. Yes, captain. The crowd on the gray stone battlements thinned rapidly as people realized the unwisdom of bringing themselves to the attention of the new baron until they knew something of his temper. All that remained now was that a guard and some noble knights whose rank allowed them to ignore the guard. Forth did not waste his time trying to persuade these. As the name Hanoldov indicated, he was not nobly born, and the nobly born would simply look at him as if something had crawled out from under a rock. After his men cleared the walls, Captain Forth took up a position over the Taunus gate. He knew that his own status was a bit uncertain. He had spent all of his adult life in the guard, and he was not of noble birth. The two facts could tell either for or against him when the new baron was deciding of who of the old baron's men should stay or go. He could see the device on the banner now, a single red rose crossed with a sword on a background of white. He did not recognize it, and he knew most of the major heraldry of the kingdom. He stroked a hand over his thick mustache and graying beard. A minor house and a younger son to boot? What kind of expectations would he have of Grandel? Last fall, a message had come through to say that Baron Rafal had been executed. His barony presented to Gwalsor Dar Randolph, third son of Baron Randolph, as a reward for saving the life of the king in battle. This was all they knew for certain. Other than that, there were many rumors. No woman of passable looks was safe from him. A handsome young boy could go far in his service. He was a cruel man, and there would be hangings and whippings every day, and so on and so on. So were the rumors, anyway. And now he was coming, by surprise as it were. He ought to have had a message earlier in the spring to say that he was on his way, of course. With the kingdom in the process of settling down from a failed rebellion, many things might be forgotten or mislaid. Now the party wound its way through the Grandel town. The mass of shacks, sheds, shops, and stalls outside the castle. It was time to go down. The new lord would expect his captain of the guard to meet him at the gate. Forth turned her away, then turned back again. One of the horses had antlers. Father's boots, a reindeer. He looked again at the man riding the reindeer. He had no beard and wore his hair in three long black braids. He was one of the Lafetta. Yeah, one of the reindeer people of the north. But Forsyth had no time to stand gaping. As it was, he nearly had to run to reach his position in time. In theory, he can make the new lord stand outside and demand entrance in the name of the king. But that was not a good notion when new lord was coming to take over what had been the barony of a rebel. Of course, the new lord could find fault either way, but it seemed that to Forsyth that having the gate already opened would be a lesser offense. The new baron and his party rode in, hooves clattering on the cobbles, banner flying above them. There seemed to be something odd about his left hand, though Forsyth couldn't quite make it out, the baron being surrounded by his men. People lined the courtyard, wanting a sight of their new lord, but they knew what this moment meant as well, and no one moved forward, as they would have done for the old baron. They did not surge around him, shouting greetings and wishing him well. They were, in fact, on the edge of being sullen. One of the undercaptains shouted commands. The guards did a proper salute with their spears as the new lord came in. Accompanied by 5 men at arms and a herald, he returned the salute with a wave of his hand. And now Forsyth saw what was wrong with his left hand. It was missing from the wrist down, replaced by a leather cuff from which protruded an iron hook. Forsyth cast a look at the baron's face and saw that he was young, blond, and had pain lines around his mouth. In the brief moment of silence after the baron and his party came to a halt, a young boy's voice piped up. "But he's a cripple!" Forsyth recognized that voice. He groaned. "Father's boots and shirt sleeves! Jadal, you're the one person above all who ought not to have said that." He turned and looked at the crowd. The Lafetta at the new baron's side said something like "Loxia," and his sword scraped out of its scabbard, and the 12-year-old Jadal Dar Coyness, nephew of the late Baron Rafal, suddenly aware of the gravity of the situation, stood white-faced beside his mother. But the new Baron grabbed the Lafetta by the arm and spoke sharply. Have done, Melga! Hasn't there been enough blood enough and to spare spilled these past 3 years? And if we start slaughtering all ill-mannered boys, who will be left alive? My lord, the dark-haired warrior grudgingly sheathed his sword, but the frown stayed on his face, on his flat olive-colored face. The Baron looked at his herald, who had been waiting for the signal. The herald brought his horn to his lips and blew a long blast. Hardly needed hardly needed to fix the attention of this crowd. The people of Grandel Castle, Walsor Dar Randolph is sent to you by your king to be your rightful baron, to receive your fealty and to administer the king's justice. In 2 days' time, all matters that require hearing may be brought forth before him here. In the name of the king. The people's response, in the name of the king, was rather less than wholehearted. The baron turned toward the steward, who was standing in his set place beside Forraith. You are the steward? I am, my lord baron. Ralno dar Harvant. Steward, at your pleasure. It was no mere formality. When a new baron took over, whether by inheritance or otherwise, any of the previous officers might or might not be replaced by the new baron. Now it is. Sorry, bear with me here. 2 wagons with an escort of 20 men are coming up 2 to 3 days behind us. There will be quarters for them? Certainly, my lord. See to it that there are places for the people of my party, according to their station. My man Melguthop will require a chamber near mine. Certainly, my lord. The baron turned to fix his eyes on Forraith. Captain of the guard? Sorry, captain of the guard? Forraith hand hold of, my lord. Captain of the guard at Grandel Castle, at your pleasure. The baron smiled, a mere upward turning of the corners of his mouth. A good day to you, captain. Would you accompany me while I speak to the young boy with no manners? Yes, my lord. Forraith's heart sank. He led the way over to where Jadal stood. His mother had an arm around him protectively, but if the baron decided to take action, there was nothing she could do to prevent it. She was quite young, with a rounded face and narrow chin, and a determined expression. Her status as a woman of rank was clear from the style and material of her green gown and white cap. Baron looked down at the two. Your name, boy? Gialdar Coinus, Raphael's heir, my lord. He brought his chin up defiantly. Raphael's heir? How was that? His mother spoke. When Raphael's wife died in childbirth, and the child with her, my lord, that left Raphael's brother, Coinus, as heir to the barony. The baron continued to look at Jadal. And did your father march to war in the train of his brother? The baron's voice held a weariness that was from something other than the long journey. No, my lord. He died in a hunting mishap 3 years ago. The baron turned his gaze to the woman. You are the boy's mother? She looked the Baron in the face, standing up to him as much as her son had done. "Brennan Mar Patbin, widow of Coynus, my lord. I am the boy's mother." He nodded, almost dismissively, and then turned his attention back to Jadal. "You need some teaching, and I need a page. Report to my chambers in the morning." Brennan moved forward, pushing Jadal behind her. "My lord, no!" she protested. "If there is punishment, let it fall on me as the boy. Let it fall on me as the boy's parent." Gwalsor's eyes went a little wider at that. "Madam, I said nothing of punishment. Rather, I had thought it something of an honor to be a page of the Baron. If, of course, your son can prove himself worthy of it." "You shall not harm my son." The weariness was back in his voice again. "Lady, I have no idea what sorts of tales you may have heard of me, but I doubt that anyone seriously suggested I eat children for breakfast. If it will ease your mind at all, he shall spend his nights at home with you until you are convinced that I mean him no harm." She began a further protest. "My lord!" He cut her off. "My lady, I have spoken my last word on the subject. If you wish to make further protest, talk to my steward, and he will see that you are given the opportunity to present your case to me at a proper time. Jadal shall be at my chambers in the morning and return to your quarters in the evening." He turned his horse and rode away, leaving the two looking after him in apprehension. Yeah, so this one's a little rough and kind of a little so far, but it's okay. Forthwith was leading the Baron and his party up the steps to the keep, where the Baron's quarters were located, when a page rushed up. He glanced at the Baron a little fearfully, then spoke to Forthwith. "Captain, I have a message from the Under Captain Sallant. He said it's urgent that you talk with him at once." Did Under Captain Sallant not be knowing what I'd be doing right now? "Yes, Captain, he did. But he said it was urgent that he speak with you at once." Forsyth glanced at the Baron, who waved a hand. "Go ahead, Captain. I'm sure one of your men can manage the formality of escorting me to my chambers." "Yes, Lord." Forsyth looked at one of the guard. "Saneg, you be senior captain here. Take charge." "Yes, Captain." Okay, so with this, yeah, this section here, there's not enough attribution to everybody. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm working through it. I think one of these is more of a rougher draft, but I kind of want to combine the two of them because there's some information in the one that doesn't make it through to the other, and I'd like them kind of mesh. And also, as you can see, there's a first part. Well, we continue on, and I'll give you more feedback. I'm starting already. It's too early. The stone corridors echoed with the sound of booted footsteps and jingling accoutrements as Gwalsor and his party followed the steward to their assigned rooms. Close behind them came a party of 6 castle guards. The corridor was mostly unadorned gray stone, with sconces for torches at intervals along the walls. There were a few old and faded wall hangings as well. Malgathup smiled his thin smile. "Impressive pile, my lord Baron." Walsor's mouth twitched into a barely perceptible smile. Not too loud, Malga. There are enough people in this barony who are leery about having a new baron without having a new baron's right-hand man sneering at them. Hang it to you, my lord. That'll settle him down. The baron's face grew serious. There'll be some to be hung, will I or nil I, Malga, just because they're too stiff to bend with the times. But for every one that dies under the rope, there'll be another one or two be long forgiving me for it. For a man made his name as a warrior, my lord, you serious soft-hearted. Soft-hearted? I am. Perhaps I am, a little. I wonder, though, if... There was a sudden scuffle of rushing feet across the corridor as they went by. Naked metal gleaming in the torchlight. Loxia! Malgothop's sword came out of its scabbard, parrying and striking into the two swift moves. Welsor had his own blade out in a heartbeat later. 3 ambushers all bore swords and light brigandines and metal caps. The dim light showed little more than that. Age or youth, beard or no, they were skillful, though. Malgothop, in a fury of sword work, held the attention of the 2 of them, but the third slipped past him, heading for Gwalsor. Metal clanged and screeched on metal as Gwalsor parried 2 hard blows, then struck in and cut the man across the belly. By the time he moved to help Melga, the last of the ambushers lay dead, and the spearmen of the guard were there with their spears leveled. Malgothop looked at them over a sword held in almost negligent low guard position. In an almost negligent low guard position. His mistrust was almost palpable. You seriously slow, no? His scorn was scathing. Our baron already dead for any good you lot make. Or maybe you just want to make sure he dead? There was a little muttering among the men at arms, but none of them had any excuses. They were experienced men, and knew that it was neither right nor reasonable to hold them responsible because the purely formal duty of escorting the baron to his chamber turned into something else. They also knew that the right and reason had little place when their nobility were concerned. The chief of the party addressed the baron. Lord Beth, some of us ought to be going before you as well as behind. Welsor nodded. More importantly, who are these men and who sent them? The chief of the guard on duty inspected the corpses. Lord, I be knowing them all. They was swordmen of old Baron. Might be they felt honor bound to take some sort of revenge for him. His sworn men, and yet they did not follow him to war. They were down with the belly sickness, Lord, and the Baron. He wouldn't be taking them along. Everyone knows if one man in the army be having the belly sickness, soon many will be having it. There was rightly 7 of his sworn men sick, but only these 3 come through it. And afore they was well enough to travel, all the battles was fought and not remained for them to do. And they were allowed in the keep, knowing well that they were the Baron's sworn men, and none questioned their presence and the fact that they had swords. The guardsman was too old and experienced to be flustered. Lord, they was the Baron's sworn men. They be knowing the ins and outs of the keep and her hidden ways, as well as any, and better than most. Like as not, no one saw them. Welsor was still not satisfied. He stared at the man in the face. Perhaps, and perhaps not. Send one of your men back to Forath with word of this incident. Tell him I expect him to look into it, and I will hope for more of a report than they were hidden. Yes, Lord. Welsor turned to Ralno, the steward. Being the chief steward, he was out of the habit of carrying weapons, and the action had gone too quickly for him to do anything. You noticed nothing as you went past the corridor? Ralno was trembling. Lord, the light is bad and my eyes are not so good as they used to be, and I had my mind on your quarters, not the corridors. I see. Well, let us carry on. And I certainly hope there are no more such surprises in store for us. When the steward finally reached the appropriate room and threw open the door, Malgathup stepped in ahead of the Baron, sniffed quickly, then stepped out again. Something serious bad in there. Ralno's face quivered with indignation. Lord, the chamber was made fresh when it was first known that you were to come, and servants went to make certain of it when your banner was spied on the road. I can smell nothing bad in there. Walser smiled his brief smile. No, my good Vralno, this is nothing like a dead rat under the bed. My man simply has the ability to smell magic. Apparently, someone has put a curse on this chamber. He sighed in exasperation. A poor welcome, I would say, a poor welcome, I would say. First off, the nephew of the old baron greets me with poorly chosen words. Then I am attacked in the hallway, and now this. His voice was mild, but Ralno shivered visibly. The pain lines on the young baron's face were more pronounced now. Lord, let me lead you to a different room, where you may wash and rest from your journey. In the meantime, I will see to it that this room is made right. A good notion, Ralno. I also wish to interview the magician you bring in before he begins work in my chamber. Yes, Lord. The steward called to a servant and gave rapid orders for fetching of water and refreshments, then led the party down the corridor to another set of rooms. He opened the door and stood aside to allow Malthus to step in. The Lafetta sniffed, then turned. Seem all right, my lord? Good. They stepped inside. There were two chairs and a small bed. Walsor took one of the chairs. Ralno looked at Malgathup. Malgathup returned to his flat face, impassive. I stand, for now. He set his hand on his sword hilt to hint as to why he would stand. As you wish, Lord. My Lord Baron, servants will be coming directly with water, that you may wash, and a pitcher of wine as well. That was said to fill up the empty space. He knew the Baron would have heard his orders to the servants. The Baron merely nodded. They stood or sat in uncomfortable silence. Ralno finally spoke. This smelling of magic, is it something all of that do, my Lord Baron? Mulgathup answered, no. Ones who do so, they drive out from among them, make them go and live in wilds alone, or far off among strangers. Ralno looked at him and was quiet, attempting no more conversational sallies. At last, a rap on the door announced the return of the servants. One carried a bucket of water, another a basin, and a third carried a pitcher of wine with several clay goblets. Following the steward's hand signals, they set these down, then retired to the corners of the room to await others' orders. Ralno picked up each of the goblets, which were turned upside down on a tray, turned them over, and poured a little wine into one. He drank this down. Lord, he said, if anyone has poisoned the wine, I will die first. Do you wish to wait, or will you drink immediately? The Baron looked up. If there is such an intricate plot laid as to involve ambushers in the hallways, a curse on my room, and poison in my wine, why, I will be dead before midnight, by one means or another. Let me try the wine. Malga, will you drink as well? Half a cup only, if it please you, my lord. The grin the Baron gave turned his face into a boy's, much to the steward's surprise. Very cautious, aren't you, Melga? The Lafetta's mouth quirked slightly at the corners. Then his round face was impassive again. I should go back and tell your father I let someone kill you because I drunk? He skinned me out, then used my hide for a hearthrug. The Baron snorted. Ha! Nearest I've heard you to drunk was the night of Fredaband's promotion. And you were still alert enough to knock some sense into Goldetch's sons when they started getting a little too mellow, remember? But now I'm making sure, my lord. To your good health and long reign. Ralno ushered in a chubby little man wearing a blue doublet and hose, with a flat black cap on his head. The magician Pemberland, my lord. The magician bowed deeply, pulling off his hat. Well dressed for his station, Balsor considered. We can hope that this means he is good at his work. You've been told why you're summoned? No, my lord. Only that you wished my services. I see. Well, there's been a curse put on my chambers. I wish you to remove it. He kept his eyes on the wizard's face. He had no idea of the number of wizards in the locality, and it was possible that this was the one who had planted the original curse. Yes, my lord. And not knowing who is who in the barony, you wish to be sure that I will not simply trade one spell for another. It was bold speaking from a magician to his baron, but Gwalsor had no objection to that. Can you remove the curse? Almost certainly, my lord. I may say, without boasting, that there is not a magician in the castle or town superior to myself, and I think that I should have known if a new magician had moved into the neighborhood. Would you be able to tell which of the other magicians in the area planted the curse? The magician looked doubtful. Possibly, but if it is one of the simpler sort, any wizard could do, there may be nothing about it sufficiently distinctive to make an identification. Walsor's lips thinned. Go to it then. At once, my lord. I shall have to return to my quarters for my gear. Good. I wish to sleep in my chambers tonight, and there will be a bonus for having it done in time. Pemberland bowed himself out. The Baron looked at Ralno. My good steward, I would be alone for a little. Have a servant waiting near enough to take messages or do whatever service I may need. Yes, my lord. After Ralno had gone, the Baron looked at his man. Melga, what do you think of our wizard? He probably at least half as good as he claimed, and he remained loyal to you as long as it's in his best interest. When you find he involved in plots against you, then you know it's time to flee for your life. There was a rap at the door. Forsyth entered, holding himself erect. Baron, that fool of an under captain. He be letting those three out of his sight. He was supposed to be knowing where they was every moment, but they gave him the slip. Lord, after what happened here, I'll not blame you if you remove me from my position. I've arranged for guards to be on duty outside your doors, choosing the men myself. Men I think would have no feelings to a title that is past. That done, I will lay aside my office. I have failed you, my lord. He slipped off the large chain on which hung the badge of the old baron and handed it to Gwalsor. The new baron took it in his hand and paused a moment. Forsyth Handolov? How did you come to be captain of the guard? Forsyth almost sighed. I ought not to be here, my lord. Then he spoke. The old captain Franker Dar Tharas, he died in his bed, a little after we heard word of the old baron's death, and no other nobly born person was wanting a job from which they could be expect to be removed when the new baron arrived. So it fell to me, the senior of the under captains, to hold the post. And you still wish to serve me? Foraith looked at him. Is this the new baron making cruel jokes? I do, my lord. Take this take take back this badge then. Have the face of it changed to represent my arms, and wear it until such time as I demand it back. Yes, my lord. Now these guards at my door, how many are they, and how armed? As I said, my lord, I've chosen men who I'm sure will have no ties to a title that is past. And for that reason, I have not been able to set I've not been able to set only spearmen. I've had to choose pairs made up of spearmen and an arbalestier. Of course, the arbalestier will only carry a sword, since I do not care to have a crossbowman outside my door. My lord, he'll not be having no crossbow. 'Twouldn't do indoors. He had difficulty keeping the lower class accent out of his speech when he was under stress. I do not care to have a bowman outside my door. Forth heard the baron's voice start to go high, then it cut off. As the baron took a breath to say something more, Melgathorpe murmured, Loxia! From behind him. Forth nodded. It was clear the baron was upset, and that he might say something he would later feel Forth and Olaf had no right to hear. Best be best to be leaving. I'll take I'll be taking care of it, my lord. He slipped out before the baron could call him back. Qualsor took a deep breath and turned to Melgathop. Did I make a fool of myself, Melga? Did I show my fright for all the world to see? Philippetta shrugged. You worry too much, my lord. He see only that it not please you to have Arbalestier outside your door, and see you only argue so much. And if there are more, what then? Surely man who lose hand to a crossbow bolt and nearly die of it, he feels sensitive about such things. Save that none of the people here have any notion about how I lost my hand. But your men at arms, drinking in the tavern this morning. By mid-morning, the word will go to the furthest reaches of the barony. Guelsor smiled, in spite of himself. Not that far, surely. Malga returned a smile. At least to the depths of the castle, with many change to show you, serious, valiant hero. Serious hero? Guelsor was recalling the day last year. The dust, the heat, the smell, for some strange reason, of wild roses. His first real battle, a wild melee around the king. The king had chosen him, seemingly at a win, to ride in the royal train that day, rather than behind his own father. He'd heard sufficient mutterings, though, to make him aware that the king had brought him along, with a few others, as hostages. Balsor's father was not sufficiently well known for the king to be entirely sure of his loyalty. The battle had become a confused hammering din of steel on steel, and then he had seen the man with the arbalist. The rat-faced little fellow with scraggly brown hair and mustache, aiming at the king, and without a second thought, he flung up his shield, interposing it between the crossbowman and the king. There had been a smashing blow, and amazingly little pain. Then the king was looking at him with surprise in his eyes. and suddenly Gualsor was having trouble sitting in his saddle. He woke from time to time, and someone gave him a quick drink that put him back to sleep again. He remembered first that his left hand had been wound with bandages, that it was hot and swollen. Then suddenly, it was gone altogether. A nervous surgeon had explained that they had had to take it off because it was becoming infected. But even then, he was too groggy with a sleep draft to care much. He shook his head and brought himself back to the present. Well, there are things that must be done. Go out and send for the steward. My talk with Forath has reminded me that we must replace the badges of the old baron with my own. I suspect that has been seeing to that already, but be make I'll have to be sure. Okay, so that is the first chapter. That's the rough version. I think it says it's 1998 version, and then I have the 2005 version. And I'm not going to read through both of them. I've decided that just now. What I will do is I'm going to go through them once I'm done the stream here. I'm going to go through the two of them and compare the two of them. There's already some niggling bits that are kind of bother me a bit, but I think I can leave in so far. Um, like this one's just the basic first chapter. So usually the first chapters have a tendency to be, out of all the story parts, have a tendency to be the most polished because they're the ones that people come to the first. They're the introductory of what's going to happen in the story and whatnot. So I don't anticipate having to do too much in here. What I've already started doing um, is breaking down all the scenes. This version, like this particular version of the manuscript, didn't have any scenes in it. This one does. I'm just going to combine the two now and to sort of make a really cohesive first chapter. I didn't really do that much before. I was kind of choosing an either or scenario, but now I kind of am more comfortable doing a combination. Oh my goodness, words are so hard. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do now. Is I'm going to once I'm done the stream, I'm gonna go in and start doing some reviewing and stuff like that. See what's in each scene, and then block out who is who's in this chapter, who stars in this chapter, and what they do in the chapter. I did that later on. I have a couple notebooks, and in the one notebook, partway through, I did really really well, and I started writing down who was in the chapter, what they were doing. Gwalsar Forath, Markia, Brennan, Tosteg, Manik, Slavan, Malga, Haywin. Like and then they're all like, what did they do in the chapter kind of thing. And I need to do that with the first chapter. So I need to kind of write down what happened in there. And then finish making my notes and then do the first part of the timeline for everybody. And I'm going to do that tonight. And I'm going to do that so on and so on and so on all the way through this reading. You get to have the chapter. I will react to each of the chapters after I'm done them. Like I said, the first chapter is kind of not much to say because it's mostly introductory. I have to do, the main thing I'm going to be working on is combining these two so that they are one chapter. And also making the notes and combining these old notes with new notes so I have everything all together, I think. Or else I may just start another first chapter thing. Anyway, that's all I have for tonight. Um, as I go through this, I might do more chapters within the night. It depends on whether they're shorter chapters or if I feel like um if I feel like I can do more chapters throughout the night, I will, but I also have to remember that I'm still doing all other stuff after I'm done here. I still have to do all the work afterwards, so it's quite a bit of stuff. It's basically some of it's going to be me having to do actual something happens between these two chapters or something happens between these two scenes. So, yeah. um yeah, but that's all for tonight and I will talk to you all again. Probably again I'll be I'll be probably going live somewhere between 5:30 and 6:30 is the goal for each of these. Just for the month of January, and then I'll be doing the final chapters and everything like that, and writing after that. So you'll be this month is all streaming, and then pardon me, and then we'll see once I get this book edited and set out, then then I can look at doing more streaming. But it's going to be kind of chunked between month here, time off, and then another month. So it might be um like 4 months of streaming out of the year. I'd like to do more, but it depends if I can read and then edit and get it published right away, I will, but this one's not one of those. This is one where I have to do some heavy editing and you'll see it when I get to it. I'll bring it up because there's parts with some of these main characters that I want to expand and so you get to learn more about them and give them more agency in the story than what they have right now. The two characters I'm thinking of that I'll be working on is Malga and Brennan. Um, those are two characters that need to have more involvement in the story, and they will. But anyway, that's enough of me babbling and telling the story. I'll be back tomorrow night with another chapter. Alrighty, good night.